Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So now imagine this. One of your developers, Vivian, calls you and says, my laptop crashed and I lost my SSH private key. And I can't access my EC2 instance anymore because there's no password and I didn't back up my key. AWS cannot recover private keys because they never store it. So is the server lost forever? Absolutely not. So in today's lab, I'll show us how one of the ways to recover recovery techniques that cloud engineers should know and usually use, and we'll recover access to this EC2 instance using the EBS Volume Swap technique. So this is a real-world incident response procedure. So remember, we try to simulate real-world tickets when someone loses their SSH key. And by the end of this video, you will understand how to recover access without rebuilding your server or without losing any data. Okay, so let's get started. So let's actually understand what happened. Earlier, remember the scenario one, Vivian, we were able to create Vivian user on the VM, on the server, on the institute, and she was able to SSH using her private key. But now, her private key is lost permanently. Maybe her laptop was lost or the hard drive failed, but whatever, the main thing is that she cannot access the server because she doesn't have a private key. So how does she access this server? Because she can't just delete the server and spin up another one because there is data inside that server. So the step one we're going to follow here is to stop the original instance. Okay, so remember we're going to share the steps in a GitHub repo link that I'll be putting in the comment section below. So let's stop the instance, and for that we are going to get into the AWS console. So this is our AWS console. So we're in the EC2 dashboard, and we've selected Vivian lab instance, and then we are going to go to instance state right here, and we're going to stop the instance. So here we go. So we are going to wait because right now it was saying running, now it's saying stopping. We'll have to wait for it to show stop. So let's give it a few seconds. So why are we actually stopping it? Because we are about to detach its root disk, that's its root volume. Every VM has a root volume, and this is where the operating system looks from when you spin up an instance. And AWS does not allow you to detect this root volume while the instance is running. So right now we see that it has stayed stopped. So think of this like removing the hard drive from a physical computer. You wouldn't just pull out the hard drive, right? While your laptop is still powered on. You have to shut it down and then you can pull the hard drive. Okay. So step two, let's look at our script again. Step two is to detach the root volume. So we open the instance storage tab. Let's go to the storage tab, which is here, the volumes. So we are going to note two things, the volume ID and the original device name. So this is the volume ID right here. Right now, it doesn't have the device name. So let's give it one. Let's call it Vivian EBS. So now it has a name, and this is the volume ID. Okay, so we are now going to select it, which I already done here, and we're going to go to actions here, and we look for detach. So we click here, we detach. So we successfully detached it. But now it's still saying in use. We need to wait for this volume state to say available. Just refresh this button right now. Good. So it says available. So at this point, our server has no hard drive attached. So now let's launch a rescue instance. So this rescue instance, let's go back to our script and follow the steps. So step 3 is that we're going to launch a small rescue instance, a helper instance that will help us to create a key that we are now going to use, or rather that we're going to give VPN to use to launch back into that server that is running right now without a volume. Okay, so to do that, we come over here and we go to launch instance. We give it the name rescue instance. We select the Ubuntu. AMI. K3 micro. So for key pairs, let's still use the admin key that we created in our previous slide. Select admin key. So the important part is that the rescue instance must be launched in the same availability zone as the detached EBS volume, right? So let's quickly take that. Let me duplicate this screen. So availability zones are like separate data centers. This can't simply jump between them, right? It has to be in the same location. So that once the rescue instance is running, then we are ready for the recovery. So this is, let's go to the volumes. So this is running in US is 1A. So let's check where our instance is being spun up. Defaults. So let's select US is 1A. So we're going to actually select that by ourselves so that we ensure that the instance is in the same availability zone as our volume that we detach. Okay. So SSH, everything is good. So go ahead and launch. Let's look up our script and be sure we're following the instructions. So launch in the same availability zone as the detached EBS. EBS volumes can only be attached to instances in the same AZ. So we are using the same key, or you can also generate a fresh key if you don't have one, or if you deleted the other key. Then I allow the SSH from anywhere, and we have launched and we're waiting for it to still run it. Before we move on to step 4, where we attach the detached volume to the rescue instance. Okay, so let's go back here. So our new instance is running now. So this is our new instance, the rescue instance. So it's running. As you can see, they are in the same availability zone. So now we are going to, so 1 minute, let me switch my screen. Okay, so now on our rescue instance, we are going to go to the volume that is attached to our rescue instance. and this is the volume right here. But we are going to select the detached volume. So remember, this is the detached volume. We scroll over here, we see that the one that's saying available. And we are going to attach it to the rescue instance. So we click actions, how to attach volume. And we are going to select our rescue EC2. So this is it right here. Okay, rescue EC2. And we're going to give it, select a device. Let's select this one, SDF, and then we attach. Okay, so now that we've successfully attached this volume to the rescue instance, the rescue instance can now read Vivian's original file system. Remember, this was the volume that was detached from Vivian's VM. So you see, both of them now are in use. So now we need to SSH into the rescue instance, and to do that, we copy the public IP address, and we get into the rescue instance from our terminal. -I, we give it the key, admin key, Ubuntu app, we give it that public IP address, yes, and now we're inside the rescue instance. So I run the sudo apt update by default. So we are going to now recover the let's discover the newly attached disk, and we will see our rescue instance phone root disk, and you will now see another disk that represents Vivian's server. So let's do that by running the lsd block storage. So this is a command to actually see the disk within the server. So looking at this, we see that we have this, and we also have this. So this is the rescue instance's primary disk, this particular one right here. And this is the one that's the detached disk. That's Vivian's disk. That is it right here. You see there are two. We have this, the 8 gig disk right here. That is the primary disk of that rescue instance. And then this is the secondary disk, the attached disk from Vivian. Okay, so now we are going to create a mount point. Let's scroll down. So we are going to mount it. Okay, so to do that, we are going to use this command. Copy and paste. So you are creating this folder, mount recovery, and then we are now going to after creating the mount recovery folder, now we are going to mount this particular disk inside this location, right? So if you look over here, this is the one, this one right here, this one right here, okay? So we're going to mount it into the mount/recovery that we just created. Because before we do this, let's actually run this command and see ls mnt recovery. You see, there's nothing there. There's nothing inside this folder. So let's mount this in this folder. Now, you see there are things within it now, right? has mounted the disk. That's Vivian's detached disk that we attached to this rescue instance has now been sent to this location. So if we run ls blk again, we see that right now, let me show this up. So you see right now it has a location right here, but up here before we actually mounted it, it wasn't showing anything, right? But now it's showing that it has been mounted here. Okay, so that's so if we run this particular command to see the original file system. Okay, I didn't copy. So there you go. It's listing Ubuntu and Debian. All right, so we move on to step 6. So what is actually happening? Let's understand what we just did. So this is an important concept. We are not logged into Vivian's server. Instead, we are logged into the helper server. Okay, the server's we are connected to Vivian's server's hard drive that we attach to the helper server. So we took Vivian's hard drive and attached it to a completely new EC2 instance. It's just like jumping or like plugging an old laptop hard drive into another laptop using a USB adapter, right? So since Linux can read the file system, we can now modify files, even though the original server isn't working, right? That's exactly what we did here. So let's now generate the key, a new key pair for Vivian. So we go back to, let me open this slide, or rather a new terminal by the side here. Okay. So we're going to use this command and generate this key called Vivian recovered. So rather, we're going to generate Vivian new key with this comment. So copy and then we paste it here. This creates new. Let's enter, and we are not going to enter any passphrase. So it's generating two new files, two files. One is the public, and then the other one is the private key pairs. So the Vivian new key, this is the private key, and this is the one we need to keep safe with us. And the second one is Vivian's new key.pub. This is the public key. And this is what we will install inside the server. We're going to copy it and now paste it inside the server. But remember, I'm creating this new key on my local machine. So I'll just click enter. I'm not putting any passphrase. And these two keys are created. So you see, your identification has been saved in Vivian new key, and then your public key has been saved in Vivian new key.public. Okay, so we are going to cut what is inside the Vivian new key.pub. That's the one we need. So you see the comment that we put, Vivian recovered. You see it at the end of this key. So we're going to copy that to the rescue server. So now let's go to the rescue server. And we are going to create a folder, the docs SSH folder. So, but if you didn't do the previous lab with us, you can go ahead and do that. But because we already did that, but let me just go ahead and still do that. So, just copy the command. Okay. So back on the rescue server, we are going to create this folder, right? And then we're going to paste Vivian's key contents, this right here. Let me copy that. And then come back here. We are going to echo and we paste that content. And then we use the count command. We sudo. So this command is saying paste this content inside this location. Copy and paste. All right. I missed the quotation marks that are supposed to go here. All right. So now we've copied the public key to Vivian's authorized key file that is within this folder, right? So let's also give Vivian the permissions on this folder. This I copy. Okay. So the chmon command gives permission, or rather ownership, not permission. Sorry about that. Let me clear my screen. Okay, and now we'll give the permission. So the first one is we are giving ownership, and now we are giving permission so that Vivian's account will trust the brand new public key that we just created. All right. Okay. So notice that we didn't notice what we didn't change. We didn't install Linux. We just reset the instance, and then we didn't create another EC2 server for Vivian. Okay, we're simply replacing the list of trusted public keys because remember Vivian had trusted public keys before, but she couldn't find her private key. So now we've created a new public key and we've sent it to this location and we've given it all the necessary requirements, which is ownership and permission that it requires to trust this new key. Okay, so now the new key, the new public private key will now be accepted. So now we move on to step 8, where we unmount and detach the volume from this our rescue instance. So we copy that. Um, so sudo unmount. Remember when we mounted, we said sudo mount. Now we are just unmounting, and now we go back to the. If we are to run ls-blk now, you see that even though the disk is still there, but it's no longer on any partition, hasn't been mounted anywhere like it was before we actually mounted. So now we now go back to the EC2 console and detach the rescue instance. Detach the volume from the rescue instance. Let's go here. Right now is in use. Right now is in use. And this is that particular volume that we need to detach. So we select it to come to actions and we do the detach. So we wait for it to stay available here. Let's refresh and see if it's available. Good. So right now it's available. So we are now going to reattach the disk to Vivian server. And to do that, we are going to select, I think it's still selected. we select the same EBS, and we go to actions, and we go to attach volume, and we're going to look for previous instance. Let's give it a second to fetch. Okay. Just taking a little. Okay, so we attach it back here. And then we are going to select our root volume. Remember, the other one, you only had the root volume. The rescue instance had the root volume. So we went ahead and selected from here. But now, Vivian's server doesn't have any root volume. So we need to select that volume as our root volume. And then we're going to attach it. And it's successfully attached. Is already in use. We go back to our instances. And we are simply going to start the instance that we stopped. So go here, instance state, and then we start it up. And wait for this to move from pending to running. So one thing to remember is if the instance wasn't using an elastic IP, the public IP address most likely will change. So you watch out for that so that you can copy the new public IP address to be able to SSH into the server if it has changed. So it's running. So we copy the public IP and then we come back here. We're going to exit from the rescue server. Okay, so now let's log in as name of our new page again. And then we can add, let's get our public IP. There you go. We are in as Vivian. So who am I? Vivian. And then if we cut this file that we created, authorized key, you see that same key. See the key that we sent into the server from the rescue instance. It's right there, and that is how we are able to SSH in now using this new key. So let's summarize what we did. When an EC2 private key is lost, AWS cannot recover it. So that instance doesn't need to be rebuilt, unless, of course, it's a practice instance. So your data is still safe because it's stored in the EBS volume. So the recovery process that we followed was we stopped the instance, the EC2 instance, and we detached the root EBS volume. And then we attached it to the rescue instance. We mounted the file system, and then we replaced the authorized key file, right? This file, and then we reattached the volume to that instance, our Vivian instance, and then we started the instance. And we were then able to log in using the new private key. So this is a valuable troubleshooting technique that you can use as a cloud engineer because it demonstrates your understanding of AWS infrastructure. And this wraps up this recovery lab. Today, you learned how to recover an EC2 instance after losing the SSH private key without rebuilding the server and without losing any data. If you found this walkthrough helpful, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and share with anyone preparing for cloud and Linux interviews. And stay loving. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.